Did you ever think that an apparently innocent nursery rhyme like Three Blind Mice could have a sinister origin? Well, let me tell you that the three little mice you've known since childhood hide a historical tale so chilling and gruesome that it would keep your children awake for days. So before you hum another verse of this evil rhyme, let's find out what brutality it hides behind its seemingly simple lyrics. Imagine yourself in 16th century England, which is the farm in Three Blind Mice. Now there's a farmer and his wife in the poem, which refers to the rulers of England at the time. The air is thick with tension due to faith conflicts as the nation stands on the edge between the old ways of the Catholic Church and new reforms of Protestants. At the time, the Catholic Church was favored by monarchy, but with the death of Prince Arthur, Henry VIII became successor to the throne, and this changed everything. After this political unrest settled, a kid was born named Thomas Ravenscroft. He was from a staunch Catholic family who were against the Protestant King Henry VII. Later in his life, Thomas became a composer who wrote poems. Three Little Mice is one of those poems, and for years it was believed that this was a harmless kid's rhyme. However, Ravenscroft wrote this poem for very sinister purposes. So, in 1509, King Henry VIII succeeded the throne and broke the Catholic Church. He established the Church of England, and this got him major backlash from all the Catholics. Protestants quickly became the ruling elite, and even Henry's son, Edward VI, advanced Protestant reforms. But when he died in 1553 and his half-sister Mary I, aka the farmer's wife, ascended to the throne, she decided to do something no one expected. So Mary basically went against her successors and decided to restore Catholicism as the state religion. She was a staunch Catholic and wanted to reverse the entire Protestant Reformation, which was actually started by her own father. She saw Protestants like mice and believed that they were misled people who couldn't see the truth of God. It's the reason the three mice in this poem are blind, because they can't see the truth. And now you know the unholy origins of Three Little Mice, but the story gets way more twisted. Now, to bring back the old glory of the Catholic Church, Bloody Mary was ready to do anything. She first started to restore Catholicism through politics. Mary started rebuilding Catholic churches that were abolished by her father and brother. So basically, the farmer's wife was ready to cut the tails of all the mice that come in her way. She also took back all the decisions made in favor of Protestants. She also brought back Latin Mass because she wanted people to feel closer to the church. She basically wanted the blind mice to learn more about Catholicism, so they stop amending with religion. Within a short time of her reign, Mary was making massive decisions that were causing major political unrest. But her next decision made her the most hated personality among the Protestants. So, the farmer's wife, or Queen Mary, I decided that she wanted the Pope to be the head of the English Church and reinstated all his authorities. This meant that the Catholic-friendly Pope had all the control over religious matters, and it was pretty clear that the Protestants were being pushed towards a wall. In the poem, the three blind mice are running, just like the Protestants at the time, who were trying to hide from the tyrant authority of Bloody Mary. But even after all these reforms and decisions, Queen Mary wasn't happy. She was convinced that Protestants are a disease that had to be eradicated, and she would stop at nothing to achieve that goal. So Mary started a campaign that's called Marian Persecutions. It's one of the most brutal campaigns against Protestants, and it lasted from 1555 to 1558. This movement turned England into a boiling pot of civil war, and Mary was sitting on top of it all. Protestants were trying to escape England and save themselves from this brutal farmer's wife, who was running after them with a knife. She passed the orders to persecute Protestants, and with her orders, over 300 Protestants were burned and brutally killed just because they refused to renounce their faith. She made a spectacle of their deaths. So those who were left alive obviously had to pretend like they were Catholics. So the farmer's wife, Queen Mary, continued her atrocities and didn't just threaten and persecute ordinary men and women, but also Protestant church officials. These officials were a major part of the Protestant Reformation and worked alongside Edward VI. But Mary was determined to destroy everyone who came in her way. Among these Protestant officials, there were 3 bishops or 3 blind mice, who are now immortalized by this seemingly harmless nursery rhyme. Now let's turn our attention to those familiar lines you might remember from childhood. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. You ever see such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? These lines, written by Ravenscroft, are also referring to 3 Protestant leaders who were glorified in history. Ravenscroft didn't like the fact that people portrayed them as heroes, so he decided to write a poem that people would sing for decades to come and shame these Protestant leaders. So in Ravenscroft's poem, one of the mice being talked about is Hugh Latimer. He was the Bishop of Worcester. His support and sermons in favor of Protestantism made him a prime target of Queen Mary. The next one is Nicholas Ridley, who was the Bishop of London. Ridley was a major advocate and organized events to talk against Mary's new Catholic reforms. He advocated for the use of the English Bible and also tried simplifying religious matters, which further aggravated Queen Mary. In Mary's eyes, Ridley was a heretic and had to be taken care of. The third one was Thomas Cranmer. He's probably the most tragic figure of the 3. Bishop Cranmer was the Archbishop of Canterbury. He was also a very close advisor of Henry VIII and Edward VI. He helped them bring the Protestant reforms and shape the Protestant Church of England. However, Queen Mary started hating Cranmer when he openly advocated for a Protestant woman who claimed the throne. So Lady Jane Grey had a claim over the throne, and the worst part was, she was a Protestant and Queen Mary didn't want all her work to go to waste. According to the poem, the mice were all blind, and in reality, the 3 bishops were also blinded by their determination because they didn't see what they were up against. They had no idea how powerful Mary was or how low she could go in her mission to restore Catholicism. But who exactly is the farmer's wife? Ravenscroft was fond of Queen Mary because she stood up for Catholicism, so the answer is Bloody Mary herself. The farmer is basically the monarch, the ruler of the land, and his wife is Queen Mary. The bishops, in their opposition to Catholic restoration, are chasing after her, trying to resist her authority. But their end is very similar to the end of those 3 blind mice. In a way, Ravenscroft was glorifying the acts of Bloody Mary by writing 3 little mice. By using the word little and showing that the mice were annoying the farmer's wife, Ravenscroft wanted to embarrass the Protestants and show them the reality of their heroes. And the way this story ends is even more horrifying. So, Queen Mary got both Ridley and Latimer arrested in 1555. She then decided to make sure that everyone sees their execution so no one dares speak against her. And that's when a brutal thought came to her mind. Instead of hanging or beheading the 2 bishops, Mary decided to burn them. And on October 6th, in the middle of a busy street in Oxford, the 2 were burned alive at the stake. And the worst part is yet to come. The wood on Ridley's side was a little dry, so he burned slowly. This, combined with seeing his friend burst into flames, was the worst punishment Queen Mary could think of. But this was until she decided to kill Thomas Cranmer. She first got Cranmer arrested. He was then tried, and Mary decided to just execute him. However, there was some delay in his execution, and while he was in prison, he got tortured every day and was forced to talk smack about his Protestant beliefs. And to save his life, he did renounce his beliefs. However, this was still not enough for Queen Mary because she wanted to turn Cranmer into an example. During the day of his execution, Cranmer promised to publicly abandon his Protestant faith. Queen Mary thought that this was going to be her big win and that she'd finally end the Civil War with Cranmer's death. But the tables quickly turned when Cranmer changed his mind right before being burned. He reaffirmed his Protestant beliefs, and he said that his right hand, from which he signed the papers of renouncing Protestantism, would be the first to burn. In a dramatic turn of events, Cranmer put his right hand into the flames, and eventually he was also burned alive. However, Protestants see him as a martyr who died for a noble cause. And this is how the farmer's wife basically cut the tails of all 3 mice. This rhyme isn't about some random mice annoying a farmer's wife. It is about how 3 bishops made the English throne so furious that the Queen had to publicly hang them to avoid any future rebellions. So by writing this poem, Thomas Ravenscroft basically got really sneaky and made all the kids sing a poem about actual execution without anyone knowing. So, do you think you'd be humming these rhymes knowing what their origin story really is? Drop a comment and let us know. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to find out the most sinister stories behind ordinary things. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and thanks for watching.